So the next factor is the effect of nutrients on the overall quality of the medicinal plants. So like humans require nutrition or proper nutrients for their proper growth, plants also require nutrients. And depending upon the amount that is required by the plant, these plant nutrients can be broadly categorized into macro, or also known as major or the primary nutrients, and the micro or the minor nutrients. Now the macronutrients are those that are required in a concentration more than 10 millimole per kg, and these include nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, magnesium and calcium. And micronutrients are those that are required in a concentration less than 10 millimole per kg, and these include iron, boron, manganese, zinc, nickel, copper, cobalt, sodium and so on. Now the plant nutrients can be given in the form of manures, in the form of chemical fertilizers, or also in the form of biofertilizers. Now the chemical fertilizers are, we know that these are the preparations that are being synthesized in the industry, and these are nothing but the mixture of various nutrients that are required by the plant. Over the period of time, it has been observed that irrational use of these chemical fertilizers has decreased the overall fertility of the soil, and therefore now it is always stressed upon that one should always go for the biological fertilizers or the biological manures, and more importantly they should go for the rational utilization of the chemical fertilizers. And therefore farmers nowadays, they are always encouraged to go for the soil analysis, and depending upon the deficiency in their soil, the chemical fertilizers are prescribed to them with the specific dosage or the specific quantity that has to be applied to the soil in order to preserve the natural fertility of the soil. But by and large, stress is now being given on to the natural fertilizers or the natural manures. And these natural fertilizers or the natural manures include farmyard manure, vermicompost, poultry manure, and various other kinds of manures that are prepared from the natural material. And the third category is of the biofertilizers. Now bio means living. So therefore these biofertilizers, they largely include useful microorganisms such as rhizobium bacteria, azobacteria, blue-green algae and so on and so forth. We know that rhizobium bacteria is responsible for the fixation of nitrogen in some of the plant, and nitrogen is a very important macronutrient which is required by the plant for its natural growth. Various studies have been done in order to see the effect of the fertilizers on overall content of the secondary metabolite produced by the plants. So I'll be discussing few examples. So whenever the garlic crop was treated with sulfur fertilizers, that is the fertilizers rich in the sulfur content, and garlic is nothing but the Allium sativum, it was found that there was a considerable increase in the allicin content of those in those crops. And allicin is nothing but is the major component, sulfurous component of the garlic, that is responsible for various biological activities that have been shown by the garlic. So increased sulfur fertilization increased the amount or the concentration of sulfurous product, that is allicin, in the garlic. So when Dhatura stramonium was, the crop of Dhatura stramonium was exposed to the nitrogen and phosphorus rich fertilizers, it was found that there was an increase in the total alkaloidal content in the plant, because we know that alkaloids are nothing but these are the nitrogenous compounds. So whenever these were treated with the plant was treated with nitrogen rich fertilizers, the overall content of the alkaloid was increased. Likewise, whenever Silybum marianum, a plant which is known for its liver protective activities was treated with nitrogen rich fertilizers, there was an increased content of silymarin. Now silymarin is an important secondary metabolite or the chemical compound produced by the plant, and silymarin has been found mainly responsible for the liver protective action of the plant. So higher the silymarin content in the plant, better is the quality of the plant. So whenever these plants are treated with nitrogen fertilizers, the silymarin content increases. But it's not always that increased fertilization has a beneficial impact on the plant quality. It was found in one of the studies that whenever the Hypericum perforatum, which is also known as St. John wort, when it was exposed to the excess of nitrogen fertilization, there was a decrease in the content of hypericin and hyperforin. Now hypericin and hyperforin are the anthraquinone glycosides that are produced by Hypericum perforatum, and these two glycosides are responsible for majority of the biological activities that are exhibited by Hypericum perforatum. So excess of fertilization is also is not recommended. So that's why initially I told you that farmers are now being pushed or are encouraged to go for soil analysis, and depending upon the type of deficiency that is being found in their soil, they are recommended the appropriate fertilizers, they are recommended appropriate type of manure, and more importantly suitable optimum quantity of those fertilizers they are guided to use. So that is why fertilization or applying or providing essential nutrients to the plant is an important factor that governs the overall growth of the plant, overall production of the secondary metabolite. Now the second aspect of the plant nutrition is about the plant growth hormones, which are also known as plant growth regulators. Now as in humans, various hormones are there, and these hormones are responsible for controlling different physiological functions that are being carried out inside the human body. Likewise, these are the hormones that are present in the plant, and they control different physiological factors or the processes or the pathways that are being going on inside the plant, and therefore these are also known as plant growth regulators. And we know that different growth hormones include auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins, abscisic acid, ethylene, and brassinosteroids. And all these hormones, they control different aspects of the plant growth, different aspects of the metabolic processes that are going on inside the plant. In different studies, it was found that whenever the cuttings of the plant were treated with suitable growth hormone, those growth hormones induces the rooting in those cuttings, thereby saving the time required for the growth of the plant, for the growth if the plant is grown from the seed. Say for example, you are growing a plant with the help of seeds. So you sow the seed in the soil. After a specified period of time, the seedlings will develop, and then the seedlings will grow into the smaller plants, and then plant matures. So a lot of time is required when you grow a plant from the seed. On the contrary, if you are growing a plant from the cuttings, then you are saving the time that is required from sowing of the seed to developing the seed into seedling and then maturing of the plant. So you can save that much amount of the time, and you can use the cutting of the plant if it is suitable propagating method for that particular plant. You can stimulate the rooting process in that cutting by treating those cuttings with suitable plant growth hormones. Say for example, cinchona cuttings when treated with indole 3-butyric acid solution, they save something about 2 to 3 years in comparison to the plant that were grown from the seed. So you can just imagine how much time and labor you can save by using the cutting if it is an appropriate method for propagating that particular plant. Likewise, cuttings of coffee and pinus have also shown beneficial results or the positive results whenever their cuttings were treated with suitable growth hormone, and the plant grows in a very short period, thereby saving considerable amount of time of the plant growth. Then it has also been found that these plant growth hormones, they fasten up the maturity as well as they increase the uniformity and the germination rate. So when the flowers of lupulus, that is hops, were sprayed with gibberellic acid solution, it was found maturing rate of the flower was fastened up. The flowers get matured very quickly and were utilized. Similarly, when the seeds of Dhatura or Hyoscyamus were treated with gibberellic acid solution, their germination rate was increased many folds. And not only the germination rate, but the crop that was produced from the seed was more uniform in terms of its vegetative growth. Similarly, these plant growth hormones also increase the yield of the material of a particular crop. So whenever the digitalis crop was sprayed upon by the gibberellic acid solution, the leaves become more longer because digitalis is largely used for its leaves. So the leaves become more longer and linear, that is, their vegetative yield was increased. And not only the vegetative yield, but also the application of gibberellic acid increases the dry weight content of the digitalis. Say for example, if you are growing a digitalis crop in 1 hectare region under normal condition, and you found that the overall dry yield was say 20 to 30%. But when you treated that crop with gibberellic acid, the dry yield of that particular area increases tremendously to say 60 to 70%. So this is how basically the application of different growth hormones or the suitable growth hormones have an impact on overall yield of the desired medicinal plant. And these hormones not only have an impact on the yield, that is the vegetative yield or the dry weight yield, but they have also a beneficial impact on the production of the secondary metabolite. It was found that whenever the Mentha piperita crop was treated with auxin is a growth hormone, then such crop gave 30 to 50% higher yield of the oil, and oil of Mentha piperita is largely used for oil, and oil is rich in menthol. And not only the auxin treatment increases the yield of the oil, but it also increases around 10% increase in the menthol content was also found in the oil. And as I told you that Mentha piperita is largely used for its menthol, so the content of the menthol also increased in the oil. Similarly, whenever the senna plant, senna is a well-known laxative plant, and whenever the senna plant was exposed to auxin treatment, the total anthraquinone production in those senna leaves was increased many folds. And the laxative action of senna is largely due to these anthraquinone glycosides. So when you treat senna plant with suitable hormone, say auxin in this case, then anthraquinone production was found to be increased. Likewise, whenever Dhatura metalloids was treated with cytokinins, another type of growth hormone, the total alkaloidal content was increased. Initially, it was found that the alkaloidal content decreases, but after the dose was optimized, dose of the growth hormone that was used, when the dose was optimized, it was found that the alkaloidal content increases. So it's not only the type of the growth hormone that is being utilized, but also the dose in which it is being utilized is important in order to get the beneficial results. So this was all about the factors that affect the quality of the medicinal plants in terms of their vegetative yield as well as in terms of the production of the secondary metabolites during the cultivation. Now, once you have taken all the precautionary measures, you have taken all the required step in order to cultivate the crop, and you get a very good crop. But if you do not treat that crop properly after cultivation, then the whole hard work, whole labor put in during the cultivation goes waste. And that is why the post cultivation factors also become important once you have taken care of all those factors during the cultivation. And these post cultivation factors include collection time, because you have grown a very good crop, and if you are not collecting, you are not harvesting that crop at the suitable time period, then again you will be compromising on the quality of the end product. Second factor is the drying. Many plants require immediate drying after they are being harvested, because they may lead to high amount of moisture may lead to development of fungal or the bacterial growth. High amount of moisture may cause degradation or the hydrolysis of certain important secondary metabolites for which that plant is being utilized by the industry. So drying is an important step after the crop is harvested. And it's not only when you are drying the crop, but how you are drying the crop is another aspect of drying. Longer and exposure of the crop towards higher temperature for longer duration have a negative impact on overall quality of the plant. Yes, both in terms of the vegetative parts as well as in terms of the quantity of the secondary metabolites. Similarly, what type of method you are using for the drying, whether that method is suitable for that particular plant material or not. So all these factors we are going to discuss under the drying. Then once you have harvested properly, you have dried your crop properly, but you have not packed it properly, because after drying, next step is packaging. So if you are not packing your fully dried plant material properly, then obviously you are compromising, you will be exposing, you are making your plant material vulnerable towards different types of factors that may have a negative impact on their quality. And after packing, storage. So you have packed your material properly, but you are not storing it properly. There are so many pests are there, the storage or the warehouse is having high moisture content. So all these factors we are going to discuss under storage. And last but not the least is the pests. Now pest is a factor that can affect the quality during the cultivation also and post cultivation also. So that is why I will be discussing this factor of pest at the end, wherein I will be discussing suitable examples which will show you that how pest can have an impact on the plant during cultivation also, as well as when the crop is stored also. So coming on to the first factor, that is the collection or the harvesting of the medicinal plant which has been cultivated. Now the collection or the harvesting of the plant should be done at proper time, and when we say proper time, it means that it should be done at the proper age of the plant. So if you are collecting the plant too young, that may lead to have lesser amount of the desired secondary metabolite. If you are collecting the plant in a very mature stage, then also it can have non-desirable type of secondary metabolites. So age of the plant should be optimized. Age of the plant should be appropriate when you are collecting or harvesting your medicinal plant. Then season. Season has also shown a great impact on the overall production of the secondary metabolite, because season is largely concerned with the moisture conditions, the temperature conditions, and it has been found that both moisture and temperature have an impact on the enzymatic activities that are going on inside the plant. And such kind of factors, that is the temperature and moisture, they have an impact on the activity of the enzymes that are involved in various metabolic processes in the plant, thereby affecting overall production of the secondary metabolites. And it's not only the season, the temperature, moisture or the age, but the time of the day, whether you are collecting the plant during the daytime, during evening time or during night, it has also shown impact on the secondary metabolite content in the collected plant. So one has to be very careful while collecting the medicinal plant which he has cultivated by taking all the precautions we have discussed in the previous lectures. Then many a times it has been found that whenever the plant is collected from their natural sources, mostly unskilled laborers are employed to collect the plant, and these laborers either they don't have the proper identification knowledge of the plant, or they do not have the proper knowledge that how to collect the appropriate plant part. So that also increases the quality concerns in the medicinal plant industry. Say for example, a plant or a collector who is an unskilled labor, he has been given a task to collect a creeper which is known for its useful medicinal value. So he is going to collect, since he is an unskilled labor, he will start collecting the creeper. Now creeper are the plants which run on the ground. Since he is an unskilled labor, he will start collecting the creeper along with the weeds which are growing in the nearby area or in the near vicinity of the required plant material. So this leads to one, the adulteration problem. Obviously this is an unintentional adulteration, because that labor is not knowing whether he has to collect this small weed growing in the vicinity of the creeper. So he will collect that also. This increases adulteration, one. Second issue will be whether that adulterant which is collected unintentionally, whether it is safe or it may be toxic to the consumer. So these are few examples that how unskilled labor can lead to the quality issues. Second, as I told you that they do not know the correct method to how to collect the plant, and this ignorance of the correct method sometimes leads to the non-sustainable collection practices of the plants that are growing in their natural habitat. So we are destroying that population of that particular area. Say for example, since that unskilled labor is hired to collect say for example roots of a particular plant. Now the best method to collect the roots is to dig out the near area, surrounding area, and to collect the lateral roots without damaging the main root system, because once you damage the main root system, the whole plant dies. And you collect the main root system, then you are devoiding of any chance for the plant to grow in the next season. So this is how the unsustainable collection also leads to the quality, not only the quality issues, but also the issues of their conservation, because that will make the population of that particular plant material vulnerable towards extinction. So that is why whatever method is being followed, whether by unskilled or the skilled labor, it should be sustainable. Then proper equipment should be used while collecting the or harvesting the medicinal plant. Say for example, you are collecting the latex from the poppy plant, that is Papaver somniferum. Now to collect the latex, special type of knives which are known as nashtars are used. These are nothing but the curved shaped knife having a specific curvature and a specific size. And these nashtars are largely used because they provide an appropriate depth to the cut that is being given on the poppy plant in order to collect the latex. Now if you apply deep cuts on the poppy, then what will happen is, instead of latex oozing outside the poppy, it will start accumulating towards the inner side of the poppy, because the cut which you have made is much deeper than the required depth, and eventually you will be losing large amount of the poppy latex without collecting. So that is why proper equipment that is being utilized for collection or harvesting the plants should be employed. Now as a general or a thumb rule, leaves should be collected as the flowers begin to open, because it has been found that if the plant is used for its leaves, the leaves should be collected as soon as the flowers begin to open, because once the flower begin to open, or once the flower open, majority of the desired secondary metabolite, they flow towards the flowers. So therefore, if you want to collect the leaves, you should collect before or during the opening of the flowers. Then flowers should be collected just they are fully bloomed. Barks are normally collected or should be collected during the damp weather, because this makes them quite soft and easy to separate from the main stem of the plant, and then they are immediately dried. Underground organs, if are required, they should be collected once the aerial parts die down. So once the aerial part is dried or it dies down, then only you should dug out the underground part. So if you still want the underground parts or the roots and the rhizome, then the one should always go for the collection of the lateral roots, not the main root system. Then gums or gum resins or latex should be collected during the dry weather, because it will help them to dry quickly. And in addition to the dry weather, care should be taken to exclude the vegetative derbis which may come along with those gums or the resins or the latex, because all these material, gums or the resins or latex, they are sticky material and they have a tendency to attach vegetative derbis along with them. So care should be taken while collecting such material. Then one should not collect the leaves, flowers and fruits when they are covered with dew or rain, because these are the delicate plant parts and high amount of moisture in them will help the bacterial or fungal growth. It will help the enzymes to become active, causing hydrolysis of the secondary metabolites. So one should avoid the collection of these delicate parts when it is large amount of dew is there or rainy season is there. The plant material which is discolored or which shows the signs of certain infection or shows sign that it has been attacked by insects or other pests should always be rejected. If the material is collected during the wet season, it should be immediately dried for the obvious reasons which we have discussed. Excess of foreign matter should always be avoided when you are collecting the plant material, because this type of foreign matter largely occur in the form of soil when you are collecting the underground part. So excess of soil should always be avoided. If you are collecting the creepers, then small vegetative weeds which are growing in the nearby vicinity, they act as the major source of foreign matter and should be avoided for the obvious reason which we have already discussed. One should not collect the plant material if it is growing in or the near the areas where we have high levels of pesticides or other contaminants. Such areas are roadsides which are having such roads which are having high vehicular traffic. So the plants which are growing around that road will be exposed to large amount of vehicular exhaust, thereby increasing the overall heavy metal content in those plants. So such collection should be avoided. Then drainage or ditches which are near industry or mine tailings which are near industry, because majority of the effluents from the industry are collected or they are dumped into those ditches or dumped in the ground nearby those industries. That will eventually increases the toxic metal content inside the plant, which will pose not only the quality issues but also the safety issues. So such kind of areas should always be avoided while you are collecting the medicinal plant or while you are cultivating the medicinal plant in such areas. So friends, this was about how you have to collect the medicinal plant. In the next lecture, I'll be discussing about the appropriate age of the plant when you have to collect the medicinal plants. Thank you.